So the last video I did about Pose Tool 3D, someone left a comment that it was difficult to use. It took too long to do poses. There were no preset poses. They didn't like the app. And it got me thinking, so how fast can I do a pose? I thought I would try to recreate a famous pose and see how long it would take or how fast I can do it. And so I chose the statue of David. Now what I'm going to do is not go into the details of how the app works. I'm just going to show you, I'm going to do it as quickly as I can, and so you can see that once you're familiar with the app, it's really pretty useful and you can go pretty quick. The first thing when you're doing a pose is you are looking at the angle of the hips. So this angle and also of the shoulder. Notice that they're not just straight, and also notice that the balance, his center of gravity is on this foot, and that's what's causing his hip to be at this angle. All of his weight, so the foot is directly centered underneath him, and this angle of the hips, if you excuse me, if you don't start with that hip angle, it'll mess you up and you'll be struggling and you have to keep coming back to your pose. So that is the beginning point. And it's not just for this app, but if you're posing things in 3D in general, that's always your starting point. So I have a clock here, so we can kind of keep an eye on how long this really takes. And we'll just dive right in. And I won't be talking a lot during this. I'll just be focused, and you can see how long it really takes. After I recorded this and watching it back, there's something about this app, not just this app, but these posing apps in general, Daz Studio, Poser, how useful of a tool it is. And I remember reading some of the things that Norman Rockwell talked about as an illustrator. I mean, he studied at the Art Students League in New York, and George Bridgman was one of his instructors, who is famous for his book on anatomy. It was at the end of the golden age of illustration, and that ability to draw the human form was critical, it was essential. Norman Rockwell talked about his workflow. You do those first sketches, you capture those ideas, and all that you've learned about anatomy, it feeds, it lets you capture those ideas. But there comes a point when you need to take that to the next level. He would hire a model, get all the props, pose them, do the detailed sketches, and then paint. So it was very labor intensive and expensive. But when he started to use the camera as to record, to capture that visual reference that he needed, it wasn't just a matter of tracing and copying a photograph exactly. He pointed out at one time that he challenged anyone to be able to look at his paintings and identify the time when he began using the camera as a tool, because his expertise in capturing the human form was at such a level that all the camera did was it saved time, shorten that deadline, shorten the time when you can get those ideas to that finished state. When I look at these tools, it feels miraculous, and I can't help but think that he would have used and embraced this technology if it was around. Because of the work that he spent in fleshing out those ideas, he knew exactly the pose that he needed. So he would hire a model and pose them. So taking this digital mannequin and posing them in the way that is needed for the illustration. And it's not just a matter of looking at reference or seeing something, and you have to feel it. And in fact, one of the first steps in doing a pose is you stand and act out that pose yourself, so you can feel it. You can feel the weight distribution and balance, and anytime you're kind of stuck or it's at a particular angle that you don't have as part of your visual reference, well, you can feel it. And you stand in front of a mirror and you can turn and you can, oh, okay. So you can feel how the arm moves and the weight is shifted and the torso is twisted, and you can feel all these things and just capture it. One of the things that I do is duplicate the pose. If I'm sitting in a chair, use that as an exercise to, I've got the iPad right there on my lap. I can visualize. I know how my body feels, so let me take this character, this mannequin, and pose it so that it duplicates my position. It's good practice, but I think that Norman Rockwell would have embraced this, because in 15 minutes you can get something down. You can rearrange the lights. Of course, these particular character, for Pose Tool 3D, the costumes, you don't have access to all the costumes that you might ever need. But that's okay, because you can rearrange the lights, and your study of fabric and clothing can inform the clothing and props, and can inform those decisions. The critical thing is getting the human figure in the pose lit that will match the scene. So as a time, this is such a time-saving device, and you don't have to hire the model. I just wanted to share some of those thoughts, about Norman Rockwell. They came to mind as I was working on this, and I thought, I wanted to share them with you. hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching.